Hi there. Today we are going to talk about beta thalassemia. So, what exactly is beta thalassemia? We are going to talk about a blood disorder. This specific blood disorder reduces the production of hemoglobin. For those of you who need a refresher, hemoglobin is a iron-containing protein in red blood cells that carries oxygen to cells throughout the body. People that have this disorder obviously are lacking hemoglobin, which leads to the lack of oxygen and in many parts of the body, which is normally the number one reason for causing anemia. We have a couple different types of beta thalassemia. We have thalassemia major, thalassemia intermedia, or we also have just thalassemia minor, which is going to be like a mild version of anemia. Basically means you're a carrier. Maybe it hasn't full on hit you to the severity of the other types. Some of you might have heard thalassemia major called like Cooley's anemia. Just some different terms that you'll hear going along with beta thalassemia. So exactly what causes beta thalassemia? It is a mutation in the HBB gene that causes beta thalassemia. This gene is responsible. It provides instructions on how to make a protein called beta globin. So just to break this down a little bit more specifically, hemoglobin consists of 4 protein subunits. Typically, you'll get 2 subunits of beta globin and 2 subunits of another protein called alpha globin. Some of the mutations in HBV gene prevent this production of any kind of beta globin. It doesn't matter whether it's alpha or if it's beta. The way this is referred to is if we're just preventing all globin from being present is beta 0 or beta, you'll see the big B with the subnot behind it, and then it will say thalassemia behind that. Otherwise, you can see the HBV gene mutation written out as like beta globin to be like beta plus, and it will show you a beta plus a plus sign. This basically means the person has a reduced amount of beta globin. Just a little heads up on what the 2 different betas look like when you're looking at the different types of terminology. So when we're talking about the beta with the little knot or the beta with the plus, it doesn't necessarily tell us the severity of what is going on with the person. It's just how they've been diagnosed, whether it's thalassemia major, thalassemia intermediate, or if it's just beta thalassemia minor. So like again, you can have different, if let's say you have beta thalassemia major, there's still a line of severity. You can be mild, you can be moderate, or you can be severe, but that beta with the plus symbol isn't going to tell you what version it is. It's just going to tell you that it's beta major. With that, this lack of the beta globin leads to a reduced amount of functional hemoglobin. Obviously, without a sufficient hemoglobin, red blood cells can't develop normally, which causes a shortage of mature red blood cells, causing all sorts of other issues besides anemia, all different other health problems we can get into. Sickle cell anemia obviously being one of the big things to be concerned about. So inheritance, what exactly is thalassemia major, intermediate, minor? How do you get this? So normally, like 99.9% of the time, we're talking about a recessive pattern here. Excuse me. That being said, recessive is like 1 in 4 normally when we're talking about, if your mom and dad are carriers, but neither of them really have the disease and they're going to pass it on, and they have 4 kids. Chances have it only 1 of the 4 of you is going to get it. Probably 50% chance you're going to be a carrier, and a 1 in 4 chance you're not going to be a carrier. Won't even phase you. You'll be just like your parents, except you can't even pass the gene on. So something to think about when you're talking about autosomal recessive. Like we talked about earlier, this means both copies of the HBV gene in each cell have mutated. The parents of the individual autosomal recessive condition carry one type of the mutated gene, however, show no symptoms. Sometimes this can be also known as like thalassemia minor if they have a little anemia or it's super mild, but it really isn't affecting the patient, to be classified as like major or intermediate. So, like I said, there's that small percent that families have the gene mutation that is in the dominant manner. In this case, 1 copy of the altered gene in each cell is sufficient to cause signs and symptoms of beta thalassemia. That being said, here I got a couple examples. Possibilities of mom not being affected but dad fully affected is more like 50% chance. or I'm sorry, 100% chance like both daughters are getting this no matter what, but neither son is going to get it. Another example I have down here is an unaffected father with an affected mother, which means it's a 50% chance sons will get it, 50% chance daughters will be affected. So just to kind of give you a rough idea of what we talk about when it's dominant. So let's break that down a little bit more clear now that we don't have the pictures up here. So when we talked about recessive, we talked about how one copy of the mutated gene is referred to as a carrier. When you have two carriers, a child has 1 in 4 or 25% chance to be affected, a 50% chance, 1 in 2 chance to be a carrier like the parent, or a 25% chance, 1 in 4 that you're unaffected. You're not a carrier. You don't even have to worry about it. That being said, some people have the HBV gene mutation in the carriers with mild anemia, and they're said to have beta thalassemia minor or the trait per se, but it's not affecting their lifestyle to the extreme where they have to intervene. This is just a little chart I threw together to give you a rough idea of what it looks like when people get married, when they have children, and how you can be a carrier, how you can be affected, or how you can be completely unaffected. Shows two different families, their kids getting married, them having offspring, their offspring having offspring. This showing that, here's the husband and the wife. This is their background. Dad had it, is a carrier, and is affected. Mom is not a carrier and not affected. He is a carrier. She is a carrier thanks to her mother, who is a carrier, but her dad is not affected and nobody in her family is affected. However, when they got married, both being carriers, shoot down to their line here, we're looking at their twin sons are carriers, their other son is affected, and their daughter did not receive this trait whatsoever. There's your 1 in 4, here's your affected 1 in 4, and here's your carrier 1 in 2. Now their son marries another gal who's a carrier, and now they have a set of twins that are both affected, showing you that although it might be 1 in 4, that can change when you're having multiples, and it's different probabilities when you're talking about carriers and multiples. So let's recap here. So beta thalassemia is one of the most common blood disorders worldwide. We see this that thousands of infants are affected in Mediterranean countries, North Africa, Middle East, India, Central Asia, Southeast Asia. For whatever reason, these are the countries that see it the most. Pardon me. The signs and the symptoms are pretty basic. We see them within the first 2 years of life if it's child-developed threatening anemia. When we talk about child threatening, they don't gain weight. They don't grow at an expected rate. We here in the United States call it failure to thrive. They normally have yellow skin, white of the eyes, jaundice. Can't get rid of that cough. Affected individuals might have like an enlarged spleen, liver, heart, bones may be misshaped. If it's somehow missed as a child and then later on seeing more like the thalassemia major, for example, you're going to have delays in puberty and adolescence. You'll have severe symptoms that could require frequent blood transfusions just to replenish red blood cell supply. Just some things that we look for when you're looking at the clinical treatment. So let's say you do want to know if you have beta thalassemia and somehow you weren't tested in it as a newborn in the United States. You can do a simple blood test. That normally can rule it out pretty quickly. Like I said, if you have a newborn baby, they do this automatically. Every parent that's had a child in the U.S. is part of mandatory newborn screenings. There's some other options that you can do if, for whatever reason, the blood test doesn't show. You can do another one, a complete blood count. CBCs are done a lot with preemies, newborns, anybody who gets admitted to like an ICU or a PICU, or if you've ever been in the hospital, they'll normally run a CBC on you. You can do iron studies. We can do a hemoglobin electrophoresis testing. If this all fails and you're like, no, I got this, and I don't know why they can't figure it out, we can definitely flip over to DNA testing. This is something that a physician will order and be a little bit more specific and more clear on what they're searching for, and can get much more in depth with you than what just a regular lab order would do. So, like I said, if you're interested in genetic testing and you want to know if you carry beta thalassemia, it's as simple as going to any clinic, any type of lab with a physician's order that just asks for a simple blood test for the HBV mutation is what they're looking for. With that being said, that is pretty much the overview of genetic testing on HBV and what beta thalassemia major, minor, and intermediate are, and how about to go for screening. Thanks for listening.